watching CBS4's Postgame special.
Feels a snap at the Ravens goal line, and it is blocked. Pressure on the ball is blocked, bouncing around inside the 5. The Ravens pick it up, but the Broncos with a blocked punt, and they'll have a first and goal. And a huge special teams play by this Bronco club.
Well, it wasn't all bad for the Broncos today. Look at this play by Joe Jones, who's making a name for herself. Block punt in the first quarter set up the Broncos' first score of the day. All right, and welcome back to CBS4's postgame show. I'm Justin Adams, and now I'm joined with very own Brandon Stokley, former Bronco. How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you.
Without a doubt. You know, I wish we could be able to talk to you now on a Broncos win, but this is a loss, and there are a lot of questions that we have. And let's start with the first one that everybody has on their mind, the ejection on Philip Lindsay. Personally, I didn't think this should have been an ejection, but what are your thoughts on this one?
I agree. If you look at the play, obviously a guy was holding Lindsay down, and I think he was just trying to get that guy's hands off of him. But obviously, when you keep repeating the punches, it's probably going to get called. But obviously, a big loss for the Broncos. What he's been able to do for this offense through the first 2 games, to lose him that early in this football game hurt him.
It looked like somebody was holding his leg, too, to the point where, I mean, he had to do something at least to get somebody off of him. And you've been in scrums before as an NFL player.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. The referees, though, they don't see everything sometimes, and it's unfortunate that the Broncos lost him that early in the football game.
Well, after Philip Lindsay left, you still have to go with the other guys you have on offense. And Case Keenum, he struggled, and that's to say, well, very nicely there. Had another interception today, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions total on the season.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the Broncos offense? What's going on there?
Well, Case has got to have better pocket awareness. He's got to understand what the defenses are doing, and the offensive line has to play better for him also. I thought the receivers bounced back after too many drops a week before, but Case has to do a better job of taking care of the football, and the offensive line has got to help him out more. He can't have the penalties that we saw and the pressures that we saw.
Do you think he's doing too much? It seems like that. I go back even to the first game where there was an interception with the Seahawks before half. It seems like he's trying to go out there and make plays, per se. Everybody wants to make plays, but he's pushing the envelope a little bit too much.
Well, and this offense is new for him. You know, we can't forget that. This is his first year with Bill Musgrave. So a lot of new things for Case Keenum, a lot of changes from the previous year for him. And what do you do when you struggle? You start pressing a little bit, and I think that's what Case has been doing.
Well, on the opposite end, you look at the Broncos defense, and it's been a struggle for everybody, not just the Broncos, but the tight ends have been the bugaboo for the Broncos defense. What's the solution? What can the Broncos do to finally solve that?
It's tough. I mean, it's been that way for 3, 4, 5 years now, and you have these tight ends that are too big for safeties and too quick for linebackers. So it's a league-wide problem, but also it seems like the Broncos struggle in that area a little bit more so than other football teams do. They got to figure out a way to slow tight ends down.
I know they're missing out on Sewell Cravens. That was a guy who was a safety, a big guy who could be able to cover those tight ends. But another thing, too, is the helmet rules. How much does that have to play in with covering tight ends?
Well, you saw the one down the middle to Mark Andrews, and that was a big play for him. And I think without the helmet rule, that safety puts a hard lick on him and maybe dislodges the football. But with the helmet rule and the way they're calling things now in the NFL, now the safety has to pull off a little bit, making a completion for Mark Andrews a lot easier than what it would have been. So obviously that does play a role.
All right, well, appreciate it, Brandon. We'll definitely keep you around here for the rest of the show. And one of the guys that's covering those big tight ends is Justin Simmons, and here's our conversation with him.
I mean, I'm always a firm believer in, no matter what situation you're in, you're always able to fight out of it. I just think there are, self-inflicted wounds in terms of penalties throughout the game that obviously hurt. And even with all those penalties, we were right there, in the red zone, able, from one drive away to be a 1-score game with defense kind of rolling, getting back out there. So just the self-inflicted wounds is what we need to, penalties is what we need to fix, and we'll look at the film to get that fixed.
13 penalties for 120 yards. You can't do that and win football games. All right, we'll be back in a moment. This is the post-game special on CBS4.
This is CBS4's Postgame special.
They flip it on the end around. Here comes Sanders. A lot of room to run. Here we go. 35-30. Emmanuel 25-20. 15. 10. Sanders 5. Touchdown, Denver.
The Broncos offense gets a little tricky. The reverse to Emmanuel Sanders. He took it 35 yards to the house. Broncos led 14-10 at that point, and believe it or not, that's the last touchdown that the Broncos will score, losing 27-14. All right, welcome back to CBS4's post-game show. Again, Broncos beat the Ravens today, and, well, one of the big guys that were out of this game in the second quarter was Philip Lindsay with an ejection, and we spoke to him afterwards.
You're trying to make a play for your team. We're right there on the 34-yard line, and I went to try to hit the ball out. It looked like I was swinging at somebody, and here we go. I feel horrible. I feel horrible because I'm not out there with my team, and that's my fault. It's something I'm gonna learn for. It's never gonna happen again.
What did the coaching staff?
All right, and that is Philip Lindsay, and I bring back Brandon Stokley, and you just hear that bite there from Philip Lindsay, a guy who is passionate about playing the game of football. He knew that he made a mistake today, but again, we go back to something that we talked about earlier. Is this an ejection that should have happened?
I don't think so. You see the things that are going on in the scrum under the pile, and a lot of stuff is going on. Somebody's holding him, somebody's pushing him. I didn't think that warranted an ejection, maybe a 15-yard penalty. But, when you do stuff like that, you leave it up to the referees to make that decision and make that call, and obviously they decided to eject him.
I find it interesting that even after this play, you have, Philip Lindsay ejected, and then the offense just sputtered from there, didn't score another point. Who are some other guys that have to step up for this offense?
Well, it starts with the quarterback, and he's got to do a better job. And then you look at the offensive line. Too many mistakes, too many penalties. You saw late in the football game there, they had 12 men in the huddle. You just can't have that on a 4th down and 1. Now you go 4th down and 6. So they just didn't do the little things enough today to be successful on the road in a tough environment in Baltimore. You got to be better doing the little things, and the Denver Broncos weren't doing that enough today.
It's interesting. You played in Baltimore, run a Super Bowl ring there. You know how tough it is playing in Baltimore. When the Broncos walked in today, do you think they were prepared to win today?
Well, that's obviously doesn't look like it now. But I thought early in the football game, they came out with the right mentality, made a couple big plays early, gave themselves a chance to be successful, but then just too many mistakes, holding penalties, taking back big plays. The Philip Lindsay ejection obviously really hurt them because he's such a big part of their offense right now, what they're doing in the run game and the passing game. So losing him obviously hurt, and they just weren't able to do the things that you need to do on the road to win a football game.
Yeah, definitely. See, I see what happens. They should have had you back in the lineup right there, huh? The Broncos
They're trying to do better, not worse.
Brandon Stokley here, Broncos vet. 12 years in the league, huh?
15.
15.
But, 12, 15. Who's counting?
What's 3 years between a couple of friends? Hey, we'll wrap up the post-game special right after this.
You're watching CBS4's Post-Game Special.
Welcome back to CBS4's post-game special. I'm Justin Adams. Tough day all the way around for the Broncos. The Broncos defense had a tough time against the Baltimore Ravens, and here to talk about it is Chris Harris.
I couldn't believe it, man. I think it changed the game. I think the whole game just changed after that play.
In your opinion, a lot of these penalties kind of be obviously by the fans questioned. What are you thinking?
It was tough today. That's how it is on the road, though. Unfortunately, you got to play against everybody. So I thought my touchdown would have definitely changed the game. Would have been up. We would have had great momentum going into half and having the ball back. But it didn't work out like that.
Chris, you had Tremaine go out, and Adam was out before the game. So you were kind of in a thin spot. How did you guys keep up with Flacco? What kind of a challenge was it today?
It wasn't really. It was all right. We didn't play up to standard. I think Flacco had a good jump on what we were doing defensively, and we got to figure out a way to try to confuse some quarterbacks. Try to confuse them. We're making it too easy for them. They already know where to throw the ball, so we got to try to confuse them, try to disguise a little bit better. But we're making it too easy right now.
Win road games.
We can't beat ourselves. I feel like we beat ourselves more than they beat us today. And, that's what it takes. You got to be disciplined on the road. We made plays, but it was just unfortunate. We just had unfortunate penalties that killed us.
As Chris Harris says, you can't beat yourself, and we're going to talk all about it for complete post-game coverage. Join us on All Access at 10:35 as Brandon Stokley will be our guest. Again, for Brandon Stokley, I am Justin Adams. Broncos lose for the first time of the year. Final score 27-14. Baltimore Ravens with the win. See you later on tonight.